Good morning to you all, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Rachel, and I'm also delighted to introduce my colleague Jane. We will both be taking you through reading eggs this morning. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go along. So let's get started. Next slide, which will now bring you into the agenda. So this is exactly what we're going to be covering today. We're going to really go into who Reading Eggs is and how Reading Eggs can give you the success for your child in their learning. And also we're going to cover as well how we can use Reading Eggs to support your child in learning so that they start and continue to be a successful reader. So who is Reading Eggs? Reading Eggs is a program for young learners that has been around a long time, and it was created by experienced Australian teachers, so it can help your child to learn to read and prepare them for school. So how can Reading Eggs help your child to succeed? So the program makes the learning for your child really interesting and engaging. It has some great online reading games and activities. The children love the games, they love the songs, they also have and can earn golden eggs and other awards, which makes them really proud of their reading, and it really motivates them to want to keep exploring and to keep learning as well. You, as the parent and as the teacher, obviously at school, will watch your child's confidence grow as they follow through the guided one-on-one lessons, and they perfectly match their ability. So the child can continue to go at their own level and feel that they're always continuously learning and achieving as they go. And they'll also fall in love with those fun games that we have, the colourful animations and the catchy songs, and of course, as I said, the exciting rewards as well. 2 words to describe Reading Eggs: student engagement. If we keep those students and children engaged, then they're going to go far with their learning. So what do other schools and parents say about Reading Eggs? Look, we have so many testimonials that I obviously couldn't list all of them, but one particular testimonial that I received from the Prince Royal College in Chiang Mai really wanted to cover exactly what success Reading Eggs has brought to them. Their aims and objectives were very much as follows. So their objective was to achieve the student-driven learning, where students progress independently at their own pace. To also achieve this, the teachers have been guiding students to complete 2 to 3 Reading Egg lessons per week. The outcome of this has been absolutely amazing, and they have just been thriving. The students have completed now 7,400 lessons. So on average, the children have been actually completing over 2 lessons per week. So that's just given you a bit of an insight on who Reading Eggs is, how we can work with your children to make them succeed in their learning. I'm now going to pass you over to Jane, my colleague, who's going to run through all about the programme in a lot more detail. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you, Rachel. So yes, I'm going to be taking us into the programme, and we're going to have a look at some of the areas within Reading Eggs that are going to really support your child in their first steps to becoming successful readers. So first of all, I'm going to go into Reading Eggs, and we're going to go and visit the Reading Eggs Playroom. So let's just jump out of the PowerPoint for now. And I've come in, I'm logged in as a young learner, and I'm going to go into reading eggs. And this is really where your child's learning really begins. And for those youngest learners, really a great place to start off with them is simply by coming down here into the playroom. And I'm highlighting this area to you as parents because this is an ideal place for you to start and to share your child's learning. What you'll find is as you go round the room, then everywhere that will open into further activities lights up. So let's just have a look at a few of the really good areas to go into. So if I go over here to where the bookcase lights up and click in here, you'll see that we've got 20 nursery rhymes. And nursery rhymes are such a great way to start a children on their journey towards being a good reader. That language, that identifying patterns, that using memory to remember these songs really gets their confidence and is a great way to start. Equally, if I click across to the little picture of Reggie there, those are 10 books that start your child with reading about the character behind the book and puts reading in familiar settings. So we've got things like Reggie Goes to School, Reggie at the Farm. So lots of great books in there to start exploring. If we go across to the alphabet poster, you'll see for every letter of the alphabet here, there's a book. So that's going to go through lots of different words that all begin with that letter. And then there's 3 additional activities in there. So another great place to explore with your child. And then finally, let's just have a look in a couple more areas down here. We've got the music mat. And of course, before a child can really recognize a letter sound, we've got to know that they can actually discriminate between different sounds. So this music mat is a great place to take your young child in. Also helps you to identify any early hearing problems because obviously once your child is learning letter sounds, you've got to really know that they haven't got anything like glue ear. So just playing in here. So great games in here where they've got to identify which which animal they're hearing in some of the different games in there. So just highlighting the playroom as a great area, lots of conversation too. So an opportunity to work online with your child. They'll be developing their fine motor skills, developing their mouse skills, and all that conversation that's going on around learning. So that's the first area within the program that I'm going to highlight there. And just coming back here to our PowerPoint and just picking up those key reasons that we're highlighting it. So like I say, around the development of fine motor and mouse skills, about encouraging children to follow instructions, to explore and to remember their previous learning. And then we explored both the music mat and the book corner. And like I say, really, it's just about introducing your child to the fact that learning is fun, it's interactive and enjoyable, and that it's an experience that you can share together. So, Rachel, I'm just going to pause after that brief introduction to the Reading Eggs Playroom and just see if we've got any questions that have come through.
We certainly have, Jane. So just a couple at the moment that have come through. The first one is, how much time should I spend in reading eggs and the playroom with my child?
Okay, so my advice is always little and often is always the best way to work with your child. So, whichever part of reading eggs you're going into, like I say, the playroom is ideal, is an ideal place to start. And little and often, say coming in for 10 minutes, 15 minutes would be great. But if you can do that a few times over the week, that would be the ideal scenario. Always better to do, say, 3 20-minute sessions or 4 sessions of 15 minutes rather than trying to sit with a young child whose attention span is going to be fairly short and try and do an hour. Split it up and do it over the day, over the week would be my advice there.
Brilliant, thank you. And just the other one is it okay to let my child on reading eggs without me working with him or her?
Yes, absolutely. So you can see again, if I'm back in this area, then obviously a child can go in, and as they click around, they're going to be exploring lots of different areas. It's all designed to really sort of support that child in those early learning experiences. So, of course, they can work independently, but often the advantage of having an adult sat with them is that you get more exposure to language, that conversation that will run alongside their time online is also really, really valuable. So I'd say really a mix of time when you can support them, but equally encourage them to go on independently. And when we go and look at the Reading Eggs reading lessons, you'll see that those support a child and that your child can work through those independently. And definitely there's a real need at times for you to step back and let them work independently. But equally, with the youngest learner, it's going to build their confidence and give them those conversational skills as well. So, again, a combination of independent and supported by parents is fantastic. So, two great questions there, Rachel. Any other questions?
No, that's it for now. Thanks, Jane. That's great. Thank you.
That's wonderful. So we'll move on. So obviously there I've just highlighted you can see that as you go through the playroom, lots of different areas. So the like I say, the paint easel, obviously, again, building up those mouse skills, the puzzle table, helping them to remember, building up those memory skills. So everything they do in that area is great as a sort of precursor to really beginning their journey into learning to read. So from that, we're going to move across to the reading eggs lessons. And this is an area where that learning to read really starts. So let's go back into the console. So if we go out of the playroom and we're back in reading eggs, you can see I'm logged on here as Lindsay. And what you'll notice is that there are some greyed out areas. That's because Lindsay at the moment is only on lesson 4. And as she progresses, further areas are going to open up. But for the young learner learning to read, then it's key that they're focused in this area. The first time your child goes in, they're going to do a placement test, and that will place them appropriately. Equally, if your child is just starting out, they will have the option to not do the placement test and start from lesson 1. And indeed, that's what Lindsay has done. So if we just jump in as Lindsay so that you can see what it looks like, every child is going to be working through a map. So this is obviously the first map, 10 lessons within a map, and then there's a little end of map quiz at the end, and that's where they're going to achieve a certificate. But as they move through, they're going to be awarded with eggs, and you can see that they have their own little avatar. And you just see that the whole look and feel of the program is really going to motivate your child so they want to come in and they want to go on that learning journey. So let's click in here and have a look at what a lesson looks like. So
I am Sam. I have a new letter sound.
So I'm just going to mute it there so you can hear me over the video. But you're seeing there that everything is introduced by friendly animated characters. And here he's introducing a new letter sound there. If I open up, you'll see that your child works through activities that will open up one step at a time. And they're going to learn all about that letter sound or about a high frequency word. And then they're given a book, and that book will be all focused on everything that they've learnt. If we just go back, let's just go back in and we'll go back to the previous lesson. because obviously once they've completed the lesson, all the steps within that lesson are open. So you can see with lesson 4, they'd only just started. But if we go back to lesson 3 here.
I am Sam. I am an ant. I can say the word I.
Click on the word.
So you can see in this particular lesson, the ant is introducing now a high frequency word. So he's just introduced that word I, and then because they've done the letter sounds A and M, then they're also blending those and doing the word am. And if we carry on through, you'll see lots of activities, including letter formation. So you can see here in the dot to dot here, they're practicing. So they're actually writing that high frequency word I that they've been introduced to. And if we move on through, then coming to the book here. So this book all about that letter I and introducing lots of words that begin with that letter. So you can see how engaging those lessons are and how children are going to be stepped through at their own pace, working step by step as they go through. I'm just going to quickly show you too that their eggs will be counted up here. They're going to go across to the plaza, and in there they're able to spend their eggs, and then they've got their house that they decorate with things that they've bought. So lots and lots of engagement in that area. So let's just come back here and just check that I've covered the main bullet points. So we've mentioned that placement test or the option to start from the very beginning. We've talked about the fact that they're going to be introduced to letter sounds, so all those phonemes and the high frequency words in that fun and engaging way. And we've talked about how they're going to achieve eggs as they work through their lessons and how they can use those to create their own avatar and build their and decorate their house. I mentioned that last lesson at the end of each map, they do an end of map quiz, and depending on their score, so they're going to get 15 short questions. So 11 out of 15 achieves their bronze certificate, 13 out of 15 achieves a silver certificate, 14 or 15 their gold. So that sense of achievement each time they complete a lesson and move on, and that sense of achievement at the end of the map as well. So Rachel, I'm just going to come back to you and see if we've had any lessons again around the reading eggs and those reading lessons.
Yes, we've had one actually, Jane, if you don't mind. Sorry, we've got two. Just another one's just come in then. The first one, does my every lesson?
So can you just repeat that? There was just a little blip in the audio there.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, no problem. So the first question I've received is, does my child have to do every lesson?
Yes. So it is a learning journey, and it is really important that your child is going to be stepped through each lesson. You could see that when Lindsay went into that lesson 4, that the further on activities, if we just open that up again, you can see that the activities open one by one. So it really supports the child in their learning. So there they've unlocked that first one, they're introduced to that new letter sound, and then they're going to apply that learning in lots of different activities before it's later at the end they're applied into that book. So the lessons open up step by step and the maps open up step by step. And that is really important. That's part of that learning journey and ensures that your child doesn't have any learning gaps if they follow that pathway through. And the second question?
Yes, the second question we have, when my child started some of the different areas were grayed out, why is that?
Okay, so let's come back to Lindsay's login here, and you'll see Lindsay is only on lesson 4. So at the moment, she's still learning those early letter sounds and those first keywords. So at the moment, all of these areas are grayed out because it's important that she stays focused in that area. Once she gets to lesson 10, the story factory is going to unlock. And in the story factory, your child can begin to actually create stories. So that's a really important and exciting area. But obviously, they've got to have that first part, that first knowledge of some of the really key phonemes and some of those high frequency words in order to be able to create those stories. And then once they reach lesson 40, the spelling area and the driving tests open up. So again, it's about ensuring that your child has that real sort of underpinning information and knowledge to enable them to go into those areas. And then when they reach lesson 60, Storylands will open up. And Storylands is the beginning of comprehension. So by that point, your child will have the mechanics with which to sound out words, and they'll have enough high frequency words that they'll be reading. But then we also need to make sure that they're understanding what they read. So from lesson 60, they're able to continue that journey so that they're increasing their ability to read independently while also developing their comprehension skills. So hopefully that answers that question, Rachel.
Thanks, Jane.
Okay, so let's move on then. So we've explored the playroom, we've had a look at the lessons within Reading Eggs, but I'm also going to take you to another program that comes with your subscription to Reading Eggs, and that's a new area called Fast Phonics. And Fast Phonics is all about learning those letter sounds. But in Fast Phonics, what you're going to find is that the books that the children read, there's an expectation that they sound out every word and they're not relying on picture clues. It's all about phonics and also those high frequency words. So every word, they're either going to sound it out or it's going to be a high frequency word that they've learnt. So let's just go into the Fast Phonics program. So for Lindsay, if she leaves Reading Eggs, so she clicked by there, you can see that my child can go into any of the parts of Reading Eggs. So let's come across to Fast Phonics. And as you'll have noticed with the whole of Reading Eggs, it's all beautifully designed and illustrated to really engage that young learner. Now, Lindsay has only just started, so she's here on peak 1. I'm going to log in a minute with a different student so you can see what this program looks like as you work through it. So in terms of my progress here, you'll see that Lindsay has only just started. So far, she's learnt 2 of the letter sounds, and you can see that they're here. So she's learnt how to sound out that phoneme and the a phoneme. And as she progresses through, then she's going to be learning words, which will all become visible there, and the books will be visible there, certificates, and her progress there. And we'll go in, as I say, with a student that will demonstrate how that builds up. But so you can see what the program looks like. If we click play there, and again, like Reading Eggs, it opens up step by step. So here you can see that they've done those first stepping stones. And let's click into that 6th one here, and we'll see an activity where your child is going to be really developing those early phonics skills. So in here, I need to turn the sound on because it's going to say the sound for me. These little furballs, which the whole program has got the Yeti and also the furballs as characters. So the furball is saying the sound, and I have to identify the sound that matches there and pop it in. So you can see lots and lots of, let's just mute that. So lots and lots of really engaging sound effects as well as the whole look and feel. But just so you can see a little bit more, I'm going to log out of Lindsay and I'm going to come back in as a different student that has worked through Fast Phonics, so you can see how it builds up over time. So we're going to just come in as Marty. So Fast Phonics does have 20 peaks, and this student, you can see, has actually completed their journey through Fast Phonics. So if we come in here, now when we go to the progress area, now we can see that Marty has learnt all of the letter sounds within the program. And I'm really coming in here just to highlight to you as parents that if phonics is sort of new to you, this is a great place for you to come so that you can hear how those sounds are pronounced. So it's just taking a moment to load up because obviously Marty has completed so much. So here again, remember that when we went in, the first two letter sounds that Lindsay learnt was that S and the A, but you can see that through that peak, those additional letter sounds were learnt as well. And then if we go across to the words, again, if I just select peak 1, you can see every single one of those words, there'll be an expectation that your child is sounding out those words. Then across in the books, the first book that your child will encounter is that one there, Pat Taps. So again, you can see that the whole book is read with that ability to sound out their phonemes. And then, like I say, as they complete each peak, they're going to achieve a certificate. So again, really motivating for your students. And again, across here, you're able to just see that progress. So you can see, for instance, with Marty, with that first peak, when they did the end of peak quiz, the first time they achieved 90%, but he wanted to go back in. And when he did it a second time, he's moved that up to 100% there. So you'll see how many times if your child repeats the end of peak quiz, that's absolutely fine, but you'll again see their progress as they become more proficient with those letter sounds. So that's a great area to come into. And again, it's really going to support your child in learning to read. So I'm going to just pause there. Let's just come back and I'm just going to check with Rachel to see if there were any other questions that came in around Fast Phonics. So Rachel, I'm just checking that you can hear me. I'm just
I can
checking.
hear you now. Yes,
Oh,
I
that's
can now.
wonderful.
Yes,
So,
I'm sorry, I lost a bit of you there. So yes, we have a couple of questions. First of all, should my child be using Fast Phonics or Reading Eggs, or can they work in both?
okay, a child can work in both programs, but it will be a little bit around a conversation. It will depend on how your child is being taught at school. If your child is being taught entirely using systematic synthetic phonics to support them in learning to read, then I would focus in fast phonics. But your child may also be using a more blended approach. So they'll be using systematic synthetic phonics, so they sound out every word. But there may also be vocabulary extension where they're thinking about all sorts of words that all begin with that letter sound as well. So if they're doing that, then there's really a place for using both programs because using Reading Eggs is going to get that vocabulary extension. You're going to be thinking about a whole range of words that start with the phoneme that you've learnt, whereas in Fast Phonics, you're going to be focused on sounding out every word. And so the words are introduced as you've learnt the phonemes in order to be able to do that. So in a sort of summary there, think about how your child is learning to read at school. You can use either program or you can use both programs together. And equally, you can start the journey in Fast Phonics. And once your child has really sort of got the basics, then again, that can be a great time to get them to work in both programs and start that vocabulary extension. And remember, we talked about Storylands too, further down the line, to really get that those comprehension strategies and that deeper understanding of what you're reading as well. So the program's really flexible, and I'd be having those conversations with school, talking to your child about how they're learning at school as well, and match up with those strategies. But a great
Thanks,
question,
Jane.
Rachel.
Yeah, good one. I like that one. And we've just got one more, actually, if you don't mind. It says, I'm not sure of the pronunciation of the different letter sounds. Does the program help me to know how to say them?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And obviously, sort of, certainly the way letter sounds are pronounced have changed over time. So obviously you want to make sure that the way you're pronouncing it is the way your child's teacher is pronouncing it. So if I just remind you that when you're in the program, go to the pink gem up in that progress bar there. And when you come in here, whichever peak your child is on, remember Marty has completed all of the peaks. But remember equally, when we went in as Lindsay, Lindsay had only covered those first two phonemes. So the little videos are there, and you can come in and just click onto those videos and just go back through. Ah, that's how that letter sounds is made. And that's a great place for parents as well to just come in and check that pronunciation. And you'll see as you move through, every phoneme that your child is introduced to will drop into that area. And as you go further into the program also, you're going to get some phonemes with 2 letters, so digraphs with 2 letters, sounds with 3 letters, so trigraphs here. And again, those videos are going to explain to you about the digraph, but will also sound it out for you as well. And again, when we go further up, you see more letter sounds coming in as we go all the way through the program. But a great question and really good to think about. So thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks, Jane, for explaining that so well.
Okay, so finally, I'm just going to take you into the Reading Eggs library, because what is fantastic is that your child's subscription to Reading Eggs also includes access to an online library of actually over 2,500 books. And I'm just going to ensure that you know how best to share that library with your child. So again, as your child comes out of either Reading Eggs or Fast Phonics, they come back to this page here, and here you can see they've got access to the library. So when I come into the library, it's a little bit like a physical library. If I go round, I can hover over the shelves and see what the content is on those. And I'm particularly going to highlight here, if we come to the picture of the Yeti on the wall, if I click on that, then that's going to take me straight through to a collection of phonics readers. So I'm also going to highlight here that you can search by reading age. And if I just pull these down, because obviously if I go right down there, so when I'm starting out, pull it right down to the beginning there, and these blue readers are all early phonics readers, and then alongside that, you'll see here the books that actually say Fast Phonics on them. Those are books that are from that Fast Phonics program that we looked at before. So you can come into the library, you can recap those books, or you can go and choose one of those other phonics readers. So if we just come back again, if I choose that Pam and Sam, so again, it's a phonics reader. My child is going to be sounding out the words in here. I'm also just going to highlight that if you click onto that heart there, I think Marty had already got it saved. So let's just go back to the book and just click it again. So if I click there, then when I come back in, and let's come back to the library page there. If I go to my books, once I've clicked that heart, you can see it's a nice, easy way to build up your child's bookcase with books that they've been reading. So that's really important to know how to use those sliders. You'll also see now that I've gone into the whole search ability here that I could search. So if my child was really interested in animals, for instance, I can put in animals and it's now going to search. And again, I've left that reading age down there. So first of all, there it's searching for the reading books that are really for children at the beginning of their reading journey. And you can scroll through and choose any of these books and again save them to that bookshelf there as well. So into this one, so this one you can see focused on that F phoneme. But here again, so this is again that difference between if you're doing systematic synthetic phonics, it would be a word that you can sound out, but that blended phonics approach where children are using that picture clue. So we can see it's a word that begins with and the picture clue helps us to know that it's an elephant. So Rachel, I'm just going to come back and just check if there are any further questions around the library as well.
Let's have a look. Oh, yes, there is actually. Thank you. There's two. So the first one, can I choose a book that is too difficult for my child to read and read it with them?
Absolutely. So again, another way you can search. So I've come through to the search and let's do by series. So for instance, the library has this beautiful series. So these are the Beatrix Potter books and are just wonderful to read with your child. So if you've got a child and you just want to enjoy a book together, you can come through here. So, for instance, here we've got the Tale of Peter Rabbit, all with the original Beatrix Potter illustrations here. And even if your child can't actually read it all, then I'm also going to highlight that there is audio. So, up to around the age of 7, most of the books also have audio in them. So, your child can listen to a book and just enjoy that engagement with a book. But even better, if you can sit with the child and actually go through the book together, again, you're using all those conversation skills. They might be able to read some of the words, they might be able to sound out some of the words, and they'd be able to identify initial sounds, say, in the characters. And again, in terms of developing comprehension skills, just listening and talking about books is really important, and getting children to understand that love of learning and the love of reading, developing that early sort of pleasure from books is so, so important. So absolutely use it like you would use an actual physical library. Come in and explore books about their hobbies or just books to enjoy together. Um, but yes, a great question there and a really important one to think about. Was
Okay,
there
that's
any,
thanks,
was there
Jane. Yeah,
another?
yeah, one more. Sorry there. Can I come back to a book if I haven't finished reading it to my child? That's a good one.
Okay, so yeah, so let's just have a look for another book and have a little look. Let's choose. I'm spoiled for choice of all these books to choose. I think what I'll highlight too actually is that although we're talking a lot about literacy and about reading, there are actually books in here that have a maths content, and it's a great way to actually sort of to sort of combine learning together. So, for instance, if my child was doing work on shapes, I could come in here and we could look for a book about shapes. I'm actually drawn to that book about halves, but let's just have a little look through and see what we might choose. Let's choose, for instance, time. Okay, so great way for us to combine a little bit of mathematical learning along with exploring a book. And you'll see now that I could favorite it so I can quickly come back to it. You can see that this is a little bit more tricky, but it'd be a great book to share with your child and for them to be looking at the clocks in the house at the same time. And if you've just covered that page, but you're going to come back and explore it later, simply put that bookmark in and favorite it there. And then if I come back in, then again, when I go to my books, I'm going to find it. It's the last book that I've just favorited. So there it is, time there. And when I open it up again, I've got open my bookmark. And again, a great way if you're sharing a chapter book. There are many great classics in the library as well. Books like Alice in Wonderland. I know that's for a slightly older child, but again, if you're reading and sharing books as a family, you could be reading that a chapter a night and putting the bookmark in. So a great way to model reading and the importance of reading with your child. So if it drops back to this part, this is obviously where children go when they're independent readers, and it's all focused on comprehension strategies. But remember, you simply click by, that brings you back to that central page there where, like I say, we've explored fast phonics, the systematic synthetic phonics area. We've explored reading eggs, again, like I say, where we looked at the Playroom for that early language development, and then we went into my lessons. And because I've now come in as Marty, you can see Marty there on a lesson 111. Now he can access all of those areas because he's ready to develop comprehension skills. He's ready to start working on spelling. The driving tests are just short, focused activities. And again, he could be going into the story factory and writing stories. And if your children do go in and write those stories, just so you know, when they've written a story and they've entered, there's a weekly competition they enter. But when they come to their house, just look how amazing Marty's house looks with all the things that he's bought with his eggs. But if we click into his bookshelf up here, you'll also see that when they create a book in the story factory, and it does open up after lesson 10, then all the books that they've written all appear in here so that you can actually go in and actually read together the books that your child has written in the program. So that's just another lovely example of how reading eggs is really going to engage your child and excite your child in learning to read and then becoming an independent reader with that real love of books. So I'm just going to check if we've got any more questions just around the library, and then I'm going to be just covering how you as a parent can also register for a parent account. So Rachel, I'm just double checking that we covered those questions in the library.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Jane. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to log out from being a student in here, and I'm going to show you as a parent how you can get information about how your child is progressing. So this is a parent login that I've just got set up for a couple of demonstration students. So here I'm logged in now as a parent, and we had a look, for instance, at Lindsay. So Lindsay was starting out. We know that Lindsay had completed those first 3 lessons. So I, as the parent, can see that. I can see the letters that she's learnt, and the books that she's read are all in there. If I move across to Fast Phonics, so at the moment there's not reporting in there, but it tells you that's going to come very soon. So soon you'd see the work that your child's done in Fast Phonics, but at the moment it gives you some really useful information about Fast Phonics in there as well. And obviously, as your child grows up, then they would be accessing other areas of the program. So this does come as part of your school subscription. And again, you can see if you've got more than one child, you can get all those reports on there. So how do I sign up for that? So let's just go back and just get to that page on here. So a letter is going to come home from school. Let's just enlarge that page so that you can see. So you'll get a letter with your child's username and password. You go to the website, so Reading Eggs, and it's /link school, and then put in the information, link it to your school account, and then that's what the page looks like. You're going to just put that in and create that parent account. And then once you've created that parent account, you're going to be able to, like I say, sign into Reading Eggs and get this sort of report. But what I'm also going to highlight is that if you go to the bonus material area, if you've got access to a printer at home, if you go to activity sheets, so here in Reading Eggs, for instance, so I know that Lindsay was about to do lesson 4. So I can go to lesson 4 and I can actually access worksheets to support my child offline. So it gives you a little overview of the lesson. And then here I've got printable activities that my child can do. And equally, if they're using Fast Phonics, so again, Lindsay was in that first peak. So I've got handwriting worksheets and I've got those phonics worksheets in there. So again, I can access all of those through my parent account. And you'll see this is just loading up because I think there's about 12 pages that go with that first peak. So there you can see a really great phonics worksheet there. So the whole program, both enabling your child to work online, but then also be supported in their learning offline as well. So were there any questions at all that came in about that school account?
I'm just going to have a quick look now. Oh, yes, there is. Okay, so the first question, do I need to pay for a parent account? That's a good one.
That's a brilliant question because you get so much. It does feel like that would have a charge, but actually, no, it comes with your school account. The important thing is that when you go in to set up that account, it will ask you if you want to link to a school account. So do that link to the school account, put in your child's username and password, and then there is no charge for it. It's part of the school subscription. But a great question. Any other questions in there?
Yeah, just one more actually, if you don't mind. When will there be reporting on Fast Phonics?
Okay, the reporting on Fast Phonics is going to be in the program actually very soon now. So I would say probably by Easter time, so just a couple of weeks, and it will be there. So yes, not long at all. So that's just a quick screenshot of those materials that we looked at. And then I was just going to finish on this slide here before I pass back to you, Rachel, or unless we have any other questions. So in terms of my 5 top tips for helping your child to learn to read, absolutely essential to really model enjoying reading. It's absolutely essential for our young learners to know the pleasure that reading can give. So those questions around should my child be reading on their own or should I be reading with them? That mix of that and where that question about can I choose books that are too hard for my child to read independently? Absolutely. Again, that enjoyment of listening to a book and that enjoyment about talking about what the book's about, really important. So that second bullet point there, talk to your child about what you are enjoying reading and about their reading, really important for children's language skills. The first thing is really talk, 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 get those conversations going. So important. So share books with your child about their interests, so sports, pets, dinosaurs, and you saw that library with the ability to go in and search. Go in and search for whatever your child's hobby is. And then, like I say, if you want them to read it independently, use the age slider, slide down to their age. Or if you're going to share the book with them, then you can choose any of the books. Remember also to favourite it and to use that bookmark if you're coming back to it. And of course, beyond the programme, look for ways to read beyond books. Remember, in the whole of your child's environment, as they're going, when they're out and about, keep looking for it so that a child understands that reading is actually beyond books. It's about those signs, it's about letters, it's about adverts on the side of lorries. It's all about reading. And then they see how important reading is in everything that they do. And then finally, of course, keep it lots of fun. And that's where reading eggs is so important. It makes it so much fun. And praise the effort. And again, reading eggs does that for you with the awarding of all those eggs, the creation of their own home, their avatar, and they're going to be achieving those certificates. And if you set up those parent accounts, then that's going to help you to see how your child is progressing and will really sort of enable you to give that praise in a very meaningful way, because you'll know what it is they've actually been doing as well. So, Rachel, I hope that's been a useful take us through the beginning of the programme for our youngest learners. But I'll pass back to you for any final questions and information.
Oh, thank you so much, Jane, for that. That was really, really helpful and useful. Thank you. So yes, it's really just finally from me, I just want to say a really, really big thank you to all of you today for attending this session. I hope that you've really learned a lot from this. You can see that Reading Eggs really is such a wonderful program to help your child progress through their English and learning journey. All right, so what I'm going to just do now quickly is just show you how your children can go into the plaza and they can actually buy furniture or anything they would like to go into their house over here. So they would click into plaza. And that will take us directly into the plaza, and they can play games in there if they want to. But to give you an example, they click into furniture, and then it will take them into all the different coverings for the house, whether it's the bedrooms, whether they want to buy something for to go outside in the garden, or even for their dogs or their cats or any other pets that they may have. But for me, let's just say I'm going to go in, I think, to the bedroom because I want to buy myself a new bed. So as you can see here, the children need to have earned 65 eggs to be able to buy a bed. So I'm going to go into that one. And as you can see, it's Jen just making sure that the children have definitely decided that's what they want. And then they simply would buy. And then it says buy it, yes. And then obviously the little lorry, the truck will come along. And then if we go back to the first page and we go into the house, hopefully that truck will have arrived at their house. Yes, it is. So you can see the bed's arrived. Now I need to obviously put that into my bedroom. So I'm going to put that there. and there it stays. So they can obviously earn the eggs, they can cover their house, they can do everything they want from being out in the garden or their actual house as well. So it's great fun and they absolutely love doing that. So hopefully I've been able to show you how easy that is for the children and for you as well to help and engage your children as well. Now, I am here to answer any questions, any final questions that you have. If you could possibly put them in the chat box, and I'll be really, really happy to answer those for you. So I'll wait for those questions to come through. If there isn't any further questions, I would just like to say a very last thank you to Jane for attending this with me this morning, and to all of you as well. Enjoy the program and hopefully hear from you all very, very soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.